Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So is there a screen that I should be seeing right now, or tell me what I need to be looking for?
Yeah, well, sure, I can share my screen and
Either
we
way.
can go through some things in Gaze Tracker. I was going to keep this pretty loose and kind of
Sure.
try to tailor it to what you're trying to do, so
Sure.
I can kind of focus in on those settings, or those features that would be of use to the type of studies you want to run. Or if you prefer, I can just kind of run through things generally. That might get your mind kind of going as to what might be possible for some of your studies that you hadn't thought of.
Well, like I said, the biggest challenge has been the web-based experiments, and some of it is, again, just lack of getting in there and playing with it, but some of it also is just some functionality, I guess, within Gaze Tracker that I don't know. Again, there's not a lot of the support documentation. I mean, I kind of get a general sense for how it works, but not a very specific sense for, all right, how to move forward, I suppose. So I mean, however you want to, if you want to just do like a quick walkthrough and then kind of talk about some specific questions or whatever you, I don't know, whatever you think might work best.
Sure. I'll start from a very high level with it. I'll share my screen. So you should start seeing it now. And I'll hit the basics of application mode from a really high level and then start delving into some of the more advanced features. Since you've used application mode, you're probably familiar with some of the basics, so I won't spend too much time on it. But feel free to stop me if you've got any questions.
Yeah.
So, I mean, application mode, as you're aware, is very different than image or video mode. In that you don't really do a lot to define the experiment beforehand. Usually the preferred setup is you just sort of tell Gaze Tracker to go, and it will record everything the person's doing. And so you're not really defining like sequences of web pages to show. You're not really doing that sort of stuff in Gaze Tracker. Now you can do some of that sort of stuff from like with our task manager, where you can tell Gaze Tracker to just launch a browser and show a web page if you want. If you need something that's a little more controlled in that sense, like you have different specific URLs you want someone to go to, then you can certainly do that with our task manager, which is one of the newer features in Gaze Tracker, to have kind of more of that setup. So I'd be happy to walk you through the task manager.
Yeah, because that's a new function in version 10 that I haven't seen before.
Yeah. So task manager is actually an easy way to run test subjects through, either kind of running subjects through back to back, or if you have like multiple URLs you want to use, or if you have multiple experiment types you want to jump between. Like let's say you have image experiments and video experiments and web pages you want people to go through. You can easily jump and load these experiments automatically for particular subjects and save them without having to go through a lot of the Gaze Tracker user interface.
Okay.
In essence, that's what the task manager is. It's one of the shortcuts on the desktop when you install the software. And if you open up the task manager, you're seeing my screen, right?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Yeah. This is it on the left-hand side. And what you do in the task manager is if you're recording the screen or the sounds with your experiments, you would specify the directory you want those files to go into by default.
Okay.
So, wherever that would be, probably not the desktop, but if you have a subject you're about to run, you could put in their name or however you want to, identify them. And then you can have different tasks that you define. Tasks are basically the different experiments you want this person to interact with, or if you're doing an application experiment, the URLs you want automatically loaded. So you define a task by basically giving a name, the experiment type you want to load, like maybe you just want an image experiment, and you'd say the name of the experiment. We'll add another task, web 1, application experiment, screen maybe, and then we'll give a URL. And so forth. I mean, you can just keep going through. I'll add a third one, even like the video. That'll be the demo. essence, what you'll be able to do is you'll have GazeTracker will automatically load this experiment, start recording data for this test subject, and then when you tell the task to complete, it'll put up this between task buffer, which is just a full screen, like here, a solid color of black that would appear. So you can define these tasks and you can save them and reload them, so you don't have to manually do them every time.
Okay.
Task sample. I'll save here, and then I can load it in the future, and all I would have to do is change the test subject name as I'm running them through. You can start recording by pressing this play button or hitting F9 to start a task. And it starts with whatever task you have selected. So you probably want to start with the first task.
Okay.
But you would hit F9, and it would load the experiment automatically in GazeTracker. Actually, I don't have a fully activated copy right here, so it's not going to record. I don't have an eye tracker on either, so I can't really show that. But you would hit F9, it would start recording. And then when you hit the end of your experiment, you hit F10, and that will take you back to the task manager, and it will make that whole black screen appear on there, on the screen. And then you hit F9, it would move on to the next task automatically. And so forth. So you would just go through your 3 different tasks. And then at the end, you would see in GazeTracker, you would just have new subjects under each experiment. Like the demo experiment would have a new subject, and the experiment and app mode would have a new subject, and the video mode as well. If you set up multiple tasks for application mode with different web pages, you'll have a separate recording for your test subject for each of those web pages as well.
Okay.
So it's just another way to organize it, which might align more with how you're doing your testing. Again, it sort of depends on how you're setting your experiment up if you're having a little more controlled situation. Otherwise, you can run your subjects straight through GazeTracker and just record how they're interacting with the web page in general.
Okay.
So Task Manager has been a hit with a number of customers, just depending on how they want to do their studies. It aligns pretty well with kind of like the image video mentality.
Okay.
And lets you mix modalities pretty easily. So it's been a popular new feature.
Okay.
Another thing that actually helps with analysis in application mode, as you see, because we're recording everything the person does, and we're automatically segmenting the data for you, which makes it easier to analyze the different parts of the data. We have some tools where you can segment the data yourself or set up automatic segmentations yourself. And that's where we get into some of the more advanced look zone features, like conditional look zones. And that can give you a lot of power as well. Like I will show you an example of a conditional look zone with an experiment that I ran. This demo screen experiment basically was just an experiment I ran where I was recording where I looked at a web page. That's a highly dynamic page. It was like a tech news site.
Okay.
And it was actually, it's pulling up Chrome, so you can see, I actually recorded this over Chrome, so you don't get a lot of the high degree of integration that we would offer in IE. But let's say you wanted to test in Chrome, you can set the segmentation to occur automatically for you, and you can analyze the screen recording, yourself. So, I had preloaded Chrome to the Verge, and I had set up conditional look zones. Let's see if I can, show these look zones. Actually, it probably, let's see, what's the best way to show these look zones? I'll go through the manage thing. You may have seen when you can make a look zone, you can go to more options and set conditional options, right? And you can also group look zones into different collections.
Okay.
So what I did on Chrome was I basically had look zones that were set up on one page and then another page. And if you have a hyperlink that takes you to another page, I set a look zone up to activate the collection for the other page. So you can see this was for a long form link. It responds by a left click. And when someone left clicks in it, I activate a specific collection called long form page that I defined, and I deactivate this collection because the general collection was just a collection of zones on the main page. So you can set these up at any time before you run subject 3 or afterwards. And what this will allow you to do is on your screen recording, you'll start to get clear demarcations of the different active collections as they occur. So this can, in essence, help you segment your screen recording video automatically. Mm-hmm. That would be one way that they would use this. So when I ran this recording, I had a screen recording occur, and that got sent over to the video experiment automatically. I'll load up the video experiment. So you can see, like, I was looking at basically the Verge's website, and then I must be running out of memory. And then you can see down here, there's a multiple segmentation of the long form page, which was this other collection that I had set up. And then on the main Verge site, which was the general collection that I had set up. So you start to get the segmentation of the video of those specific things automatically. And this would help you analyze that more accurately. Yeah. So that's probably one of the more advanced features with screen recording, how you would use screen recording to automatically segment data. And you would use that for some of those highly dynamic websites that aren't, that aren't like navigating to different URLs, that are using a lot of JavaScript, or if you want to study to another browser, like using Chrome or Firefox or something like that, where we can't segment web page and applications for you.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the specific project that we're working on now, the link that I sent you, I mean, it's a page that looks like it's just pretty typical HTML in terms of its structure, how it's been assembled. And so, again, I don't even know the particulars of this. It's a project that I'm trying to help troubleshoot, to be honest with you. But like I said, it's pretty typical HTML, and we can record the gaze data for this site. Then, after the fact, we can go into Gaze Tracker and use the automatic look zone creation tool. I mean, again, in terms of workflow, is that, again, am I pretty much on track still that you record the data, then after the fact have it recognize the look zones, or tell me about how we integrate that in terms of the analysis on the back end?
You have a lot of flexibility, and doing that afterwards is completely appropriate. Like that's a good way to do it, because you can always, that way you can easily change what you're analyzing.
Sure.
I mean, you can make look zones beforehand, or have them automatically create them during recording, or just do them at the end. I'd say it's probably easier just to do them at the end. Mm-hmm. Make your zones either through automatic creation or drawing them directly on the page itself. Yeah. You can, if you have something different that's not auto parsing out, you can always go to look zones add and then draw directly in and Internet Explorer and make zones.
Well, tell me this. So let's just say we've got I don't know what the sample size we're looking at on this particular study is, but again, we're going to have people with very unique browsing experiences. There are a lot of different pages they could go to on this site. How do we, if we did begin to manually draw these look zones over areas of interest, how do we then save ourselves the labor and not have to do this uniquely for every single participant? Because, again, I mean, the home page is a great example that everybody will start at that page.
Right.
How do we draw those zones and then have them, again, use those for every participant who does the study, so we don't have to redraw these per subject?
So look zones in application mode are actually associated with, you're using IE. If you're using IE, they're associated with the web page and itself.
Okay.
So if you make the look zones on this web page and then save them,
okay,
they'll be associated with that page. And if you set your experiment up, let me go under this experiment wizard, and you have automatically load look zones for a window checked. Then anytime you load a subject, if they visited that page, those look zones will be loaded if you set them as the default zones.
Okay.
So let's say, let me explain it again. Like when you hit save layout, and you're saving some zones, you want to check this box down here called Set as Default.
Okay.
You're saving zones for a specific page or something that you've made. And what default look zones are these are the look zones that are loaded automatically whenever Gaze Tracker sees that test subject interacted with a page.
Okay.
And they're loaded automatically whenever you load that subject. So you don't have to do it before you run subjects.
Okay.
You can do it afterwards.
Sure.
So this is really the key feature. And they'll load automatically if you've also, so you got to set them as the default, but then you also have to have your experiment set to automatically load.
Okay.
If you don't, it's okay. All you got to do is just you have to manually load them. So you go in here and choose it, and then choose to load it, and then it would load it automatically into the right window.
So in terms of a workflow, when we create those look zones for a page, we need to come up with some sort of unique name for that layout that is, again, tied to that particular page. If we did need to load these manually, as opposed to letting Gaze Tracker automatically load them as the default for that page.
Yeah, just for your own sanity, because you just want to have a good naming convention, so you know.
Now, so again, make sure I'm correct in this. Then, so if we we have that setting checked within our experiment wizard, then we draw the look zones for that page, save as the default. Then every participant in that experiment, if they visit that particular URL, then Gaze Tracker will automatically load those look zones for us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And, you can, like I said, you can do it after you run all your participants.
Okay.
Gaze Tracker will load those look zones when you load the data to look at them.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to do it before you run participants. And so a key thing to note with that as well is if you change it, well, let's say then you change it or you change what the default layout is. Let's say you've made multiple layouts for this web page,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to change what the default layout is. You do that through the Layout Manager. You can select one and unset as the default or make it the default. Then on subsequent loads of a subject, it'll load the new default layout that you made.
Okay.
Yeah, and this looks like a straightforward HTML page.
Yeah,
so,
there's nothing all that. It's not all that dynamic. It's easy
it's
to
all
kind
the
of parse
dynamic
out.
stuff. So, this will be really, this should be pretty easy to analyze a Gaze Tracker once you get all your zones made and everything.
Now, I know that because we've been collecting some pilot data on this, and in Gaze Tracker 10, when we try and do the multiple subject wizard,
Mm-hmm.
even after, let's just say, again, we try and do this for the home page. We're trying to export the gaze metrics for that home page. And the home page is an easy one because we've got 5 people who all started at the same place. When we use that multiple subject wizard, it seems like without fail it always tells us no data. In other words, it generates an Excel file that then says no data.
So the thing you want to make sure of
Mm-hmm.
is that you're selecting the actual page that you've collected data on.
Mm-hmm.
It's exporting on the page that you're expecting.
Yeah, but that's the peculiar thing is I know that, again, we're using the home page as an example because everyone starts at the home page.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different because if we export the subjects individually, we get data, but like in the multiple subject wizard, for whatever reason, again, keeps giving us an Excel file that says no data.
That's really strange. I wouldn't think if you're selecting, you're selecting your subjects that you want here,
Mm-hmm.
and you're selecting the specific stimulus here on the select slides for analysis. It should be basically running the individual export for each test subject out. So you should still be getting your gaze and fixation list.
Yeah, and again, I can't. I'm just now getting to a point where I can really spend some time with this and verify for myself. But I know that, again, I've kind of seen it. I mean, individually we can export data. We see the gaze data within the browser or the tree on the left. So I mean, I know that we've got the gaze data, but sure enough, when we try and export using multiple subjects, it tells us that no data.
If you have an example, send it to me, like the database.
Sure.
And show me what what subjects you're running
Yeah.
and what you're selecting, I can see what's going on.
And so another question I have, so looking at I think it's under it's under the Look Zone tab, the automatic creation options. Again, finding the links, finding the images, I mean, that's easy enough. The dialog where we can specify specific HTML attributes to look at, can you walk me through some of that and kind of explain a little bit in terms of tags? I understand what the tags are. It's the attributes, values. Again, what is it that goes in those fields?
Well, a lot of this is going to depend on your actual page.
Sure.
And what you're looking for. So you got to sort of either know the page or have a way to access it.
What I've been doing is using F12, the inspector functionality of IE to try and determine, like, looking at that big block of text on the home page where it says healthy habits and there's a star next to it.
Yeah, that's right here.
Yeah. So, again, I can identify the source that's making that happen. Now, how do I use that information within the automatic look zone creation tool to say, all right, now build a look zone around that block of text?
So what's tough is so you can see that basically that text right there is a P style, or is a P block. That's the healthy habits thing. So, ideally on a website, they will have tagged it with a specific value or something, or even an identifier, and it doesn't look like they've done that here.
Okay.
But what you could take out of it is the way this dialog box works is, a tag is a specific kind of element, like a div or an H2 or a P.
Sure.
An attribute is just one of the things that you see inside of here, like style.
Okay.
Or, something like that. So you would say style, and then you would say a value. That style needs to have for you to make something on it. So this text block, unfortunately, doesn't really have any anything. Because this is just a highly distinctive thing. You might be able to nail that single text block, but in this case, I would say you should just manually draw your look zone over it instead. Instead of trying to auto parse it, because it's just too distinctive. But usually, so here's like an example, like div. Here's a div called wrapper. ID equals wrapper. So you would make your tag would be like div ID, wrapper, like that. And then any div with an ID of wrapper would make a look zone on.
Okay.
So you do like LZ is the text, and then this thing, if you want to number them, you can just do like these like less than sign C and then greater than sign. That basically tells Gaze Tracker to do a count, to increment a count. So it'd be like LZ number 1.
Okay.
And we'll put it into this specific collection that you've named as well. So if you do that, then we hit all the wrapper ones, which I think is only this one right here.
Sure, but if there were a series of them on the page, it could, again, name them wrapper 1, wrapper 2. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So everything looks like it's actually has its own unique IDs, so you can't really do them such that it would parse them all automatically, except if you get images here. I guess you get all those images automatically.
It captures those images and the fact that they're hyperlinks. I mean, those are... It will parse like that little menu that you're kind of mousing over there with the whole grains, fruits and vegetables, drinks. Again, Gaze Tracker can capture those because they are images and links. And so I've seen those show up when we do the automatic look zone creation.
Just as an aside, what's interesting is these things under the hood, when you check find images, find links, it's just setting up this sort of thing.
Okay.
But it's just saying find all IMGs. And it's not specifying, like if you don't specify an attribute or value, you can leave this blank, and then it'll just find all of the divs.
Okay.
And do it. So you could, if you want to grab like all divs, you could do something like this, and it would just take them all. That might be a little aggressive. I mean, you have to experiment and see if it works.
Sure.
You could try to get like all H2s or something. But again, this page, I think it only has like one H2
Sure.
on there, so that might not be helpful. So, but that's an important point, is like attributes and values you don't have to put in.
Okay.
You can leave them blank. Even such that, you could do something like this even, and this would just take all P's that have a style associated with them. It would take them all, because you didn't set a specific one. It just looks for P's that have an attribute called style.
Okay.
So there's a lot of flexibility in that way.
So what would be a good strategy then? I'm assuming we can easily, combine the automatic look zones that Gaze Tracker would create with the manually created look zones. Would those all then be saved as? I'm trying to figure out how it would work. Would it be like one set of default look zones for a page, or do we need to have different look zone layouts? One for the manually created zones and one for the automatic created zones?
No, you can pull them all together. So when you hit create look zones here, it's going to say there's already zones there. Do you want to delete them? So if you've already manually made your zones, you could just say no to that.
Okay.
But you probably want to set up your auto creations first and then go in and manually do it.
Okay.
Just to play around with the auto creation a great deal. It'd be a lot easier. Because then you could always just keep deleting what's there if you don't like how it's parsing it. But then you would, once you've done them all, made all your zones, you would then save it for your individual page under one layout. It's perfectly fine. I think that's probably what you really want to do, and set it as a default.
If we already have a layout set as the default for that page, does it override or does it?
No, you can have. You can have multiple layouts. Set up that way.
And multiple layouts can be defaults for a given page.
Yeah. I believe it will load all layouts. That's as a default.
Okay.
So you could have multiple ones that way. It just gets a little harder I personally think it's a little harder to manage, but
you're just going to have an awful lot going on with any given page. You're going to have multiple.
Yeah, exactly. You start having a ton of layouts in your list, and it gets even more important that you name them well.
Okay.
I'll double check the default thing. I am pretty sure it will load it, even if it's the same. I don't think there's anything in there that makes you only have one layout be the default. I think it'll just load everything. Okay. But I'll have to double check and get back to you on that.
Yeah, no worries. Like I said, I'm just trying to figure out a good workflow to tackle this project, and and like I said, frankly, this isn't like a knock against you or Gaze Tracker or anything, but this is sort of thing that doesn't show up in the documentation about the software. That it's a bit intimidating when you just start diving in there and don't have a good frame of reference about what all this is and how to employ it, I suppose.
And that's why we're happy to do these sessions. It's really actually easier, I think, to talk to people about what they want to do and tell them how to do it, with the software in some respects, because there's so many million different ways people can run their studies.
No, absolutely, and I'm kind of idiosyncratic depending on the application, the site, etc. So no, I get that. And that's what I was trying to figure out, just as we move forward, a best way to tackle some of these things. Because we have this study, which seems fairly straightforward, and then we're also trying to do another web-based study that does not employ, a clean HTML structure, and it's, again, tremendous amount of it's a very unique viewing experience. A lot of dynamic content. That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the one you had me look at before, right?
Yeah, the climate change. Site, and that's the one that, and I don't want to say buggy, but Gaze Tracker will record the data. Sometimes it seems like you have to just hold your mouth just right to get it to record the data, because sometimes we still have the experience to where it'll record your desktop, but the second IE is launched, you have a big gap in your data file. I think the workflow that works is we have to have the site already launched and running, and then start gaze trackers recording and work that way. But I'm not going to swear that's what works.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of that would be causing that is if it's something that's just delaying the load of everything. Like, because when you launch Internet Explorer, it's got to load a lot of stuff, including our modules inside of it. And usually they load pretty fast, but that's the only thing I can think of that would cause like a huge data gap like that.
Well, again, just that the gap exists as long as IE is launched, there is no data. It's not like there are sections where it appears and sections where it doesn't. It just you can look at the data file and it goes from desktop to however long they browsed, and then all of a sudden the desktop reappears. So again, it's been a little bit squirrely, for lack of a better word. But I mean, one thing we've been able to do is to go, but even without the gaze data, we have the screen recording, so we can kind of look at how long they've done what. But obviously, that isn't nearly as granular as the actual gaze metrics would be. But
you found if you launched Gaze Tracker before you ran the recording, that everything was going
and then
fine.
I think it does capture the gaze data. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So, well, let's again. I'm going to continue working with this grad student who's doing this, whatever this page is, this healthy eating website. Like I said, I've kind of been out of pocket and not up to speed on exactly what she's trying to do and what the challenge is. But like I said, I know generally the website or the application mode analysis is the part of the software that we just have never really gotten a whole lot of traction with. So that's why, again, another reason I actually want to work with her on this project is so I can get a better sense for how application mode works for web browsing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, I know that she's got somebody coming in today, and so we're going to run a session, and I'm going to try and spend some time with that data file to see if we can work on the automatic look zone creation, and then also manually drawing some look zones. I know that she was somewhat averse to the manually drawing look zones just because of the depth of the site. There were just so many unique pages on this site that it seemed kind of tedious to go in and manually do that. But again, that may just have to be what we do with the page when it can't recognize some of the attributes.
Well, I mean, the other thing you can do, you could do. I guess it just gets into what's easier, because It looks like a lot of the attributes on these pages are so uniquely identified.
Yeah.
You can set up auto parsings to get them all, but you'd have to set up a ton of auto parsings, and the time it would take you to go and figure out what's what, you could probably manually have made the zones faster anyway. It's just unfortunate they're not like tagging things a little differently. Like in this demo data. Here, and this ships out with your software. If you look at the like this page, it's actually all the text here is being tagged with a specific block ID, which is how we get it with the auto detect here. Like it's actually has a particular class associated with it, which is more typical of how web pages are done, but that's one thing that makes web studies harder too. Is every web page kind of has its own. People have their own ways they write stuff. So you can see, like here, I clicked on this text and it was div classes blog post content. So you can see on this this web page, like things are nice and set up, are nicely set up into different areas. Different identifiers for the different types of things that are up there. So you can set up only a couple of different auto parsings to get the individual text up or to get the entire thing set up as well. And this is an example. You can see this. I have this set up. There's already look zones on here. If I hit create look zones, it says, do you wish to delete the zones before reparsing the page? And if I choose no, it'll just add them. To what's there, but I can hit yes, and everything will be destroyed and thrown on there, basically.
Okay. So what do you find in terms of people who work with the eye tracking for websites? In terms of, do most of them work with the screen recording, or do most people work with the automatic or manual look zone creation, or is it just kind of a 6 of one, half dozen of the other?
Yeah, really, it's completely driven by the site itself.
Okay.
So with the site that you're doing here on this, like the military link you gave me, that one is Jump to Health.
Yeah.
You would totally use application mode analysis. You wouldn't need to use a screen recording.
Okay.
Of how this site is done. So that would be by far the easiest way to do it.
Because there's not a whole lot of dynamic content to it, if any.
Right. There's not any dynamic content. Sure. Everything's navigating like this is just a straightforward HTML page. Once you get in the pages that have dynamic content, like it also gets into what you want to study, but
sure.
What you're really interested in. But if you have pages that have like the pop-up menus,
mm-hmm.
Even when you get there, you might want to do a screen recording because the pop-up menu is showing up over content, so you wouldn't necessarily want to have that. Think people are looking at something that they're not actually. Yeah. So most news sites you would do. You might do a screen recording on, just because there's so much dynamic stuff there. Now, the other thing is if the site's changing, you might download the site locally.
That's true.
You want to make sure you have control over the site. If you're not going to do a screen recording, then it's imperative that you have control over the site. I don't even know why this website's not loading right now.
Yeah.
But so let's say someone wants to study like CNN. It sort of depends on what they're trying to do. CNN has changed a lot since I last one here. On what they're trying to do, but if they were recording over just this homepage, they'd want to download this page locally since the CNN homepage changes all the time.
Sure.
They want to at least do that. Other than that, they may want to do a screen recording if there's a bunch of pop-up things on this, which doesn't appear to be the way they're doing it right now. On CNN. So anyway, I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah. No, again, it was what I was thinking, just in terms of, like I said, it is really driven by the stimulus and just how dynamic versus static it is. And so when we get into a website that we're doing a screen recording on, then it truly does just kind of revert back to, again, basically a video experiment where we would draw look zones, set the attributes for the look zones in terms of when they appear, when they disappear, add motion to the look zones as the browsing experience changes, that sort of thing.
Yeah, you're in video mode. You're doing all that in video mode.
Okay.
That's right. One thing, I think there's a FAQ on our website which might...
Yeah, I've been there before. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've been there, so I couldn't tell you exactly what's on there.
Yeah, so I mean, this definitely doesn't go in as in depth as what I just went through, so this may not be... I definitely went way more in depth than this thing does, but sometimes this stuff can help with certain terminology.
Sure.
You just want to make a refresher on what conditional look zones are.
Okay.
It might be helpful.
Okay. Like I said, I think we're supposed to be collecting some subject data today, and I'm going to spend some time with it on the back end and see if we can, again, kind of work through what we talked about today in terms of a combination of automatic look zones and manually created look zones, and see if we can't export some data that way.
Yeah, so the perk is even if you're manually creating look zones, you just got to make them once for the entire website.
Make them for that page, and then
for each subject.
Yeah. Cool. so we're going to take a stab at it and see what we can get going with this page.
Okay, yeah, let me know, what hiccups you run into and, what I can do to help.
Cool. No, I appreciate that. One thing I think you said in an email or last time we chatted, I can't remember. We just purchased the whatever upgrade to version 10 of Gaze Tracker. Did you say that we can still run older versions of Gaze Tracker on another computer if necessary?
You should, I don't think, you should be able to. Okay. You can definitely look at data that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I meant. Not actually running and collecting data, but, copy a database from the actual lab and then put it on a different PC that's running the older version of Gaze Tracker.
You can do that. You might have, if you're collecting some stuff with 10, the reason I'm hesitating is some stuff with 10 is brand new,
sure,
and Gaze Tracker 9 isn't going to know what to do with it.
Okay.
For this type of study, you're not going to run into that problem.
Okay.
For like this basic web page, but if you're doing some of the advanced screen recording stuff I was talking about before, like basically stuff that's brand new in 10,
yeah,
the 9 stuff, when you try to load the data at 9, you're going to get very, very confused.
Okay.
I mean, if you want an unlimited number of analysis copies of 10, that's another fee, but that's something we offer.
Sure.
That would give you free upgrades as well throughout the entire period.
Hey, let me just see. Frankly, it's feast. My experience is we're kind of feast or famine in terms of utilization of some of these labs. But big. You have periods where you're using it like crazy, and then periods where you have a downtime. No, that's again a really good way to describe this semester. Kind of picked up a little bit, but then I'll have a long stretch where nobody turns anything on in here. So, and again, that's kind of I think why I'm also rusty with the look zones is I'll get up to speed on it, and then I won't touch it again for 6 months just because I'm off doing other projects. So.
No, we totally understand that. I mean, we know how this is. You're not doing it every day, so you're not, it's not going to be, you internalize it when you're doing a study, and then 6 months later, we can't expect you to necessarily remember everything that you learned. It's common. The other thing we run into is, there'll be grad students that get really adept at everything, and then they leave and they don't train the new grad students, so you got to train them.
Yeah,
that's just the way it is.
No,
in this
for
market.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, cool. I appreciate the help. Like I said, I'm going to dive in there, and as I have more questions, I'll try and keep it short and sweet and come up with some specific questions as opposed to just kind of vague, how does this work type questions.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the help, Chris.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool.
Good luck with the study.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.
Okay, bye.